Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Norman Yeo. Each episode, I bring on different business leaders who doing game-changing things, and in this neck of the woods, this is part of my 29 Days of Magic series, where I interview a Black woman a day for 29 days during Black History Month. And today's episode, I'm super excited to have Sharese Bullock-Bailey, who is the founder of Overstand and the Chief Innovation Officer for Urbanworld. It was a really incredible life story. It's going to be a great conversation. Listen. Hey, Therese.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Wonderful. Such an honor and pleasure to be with you and these 29 days of magic. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it is my absolute pleasure. I am so delighted that you're going to be part of the conversation this month. So, as you probably know, because you've listened to some of the episodes, first question, always the same. Answers, always amazing. And I'm sure yours be no different. So, Therese, what was your first job?
So my first job as a New Yorker, uh, I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, and I commuted to the Upper East Side to a girls' school called the Brearley School for Girls. And I literally walked into the, jobs office or administrative office and got my working papers, as they were officially known back at 14, and signed up for a job at Birthday Bakers Party Makers. It was a boutique birthday party planning agency, also sort of a cake studio and corporate events planning agency run by a woman named Linda Kay. And I pretty much was a gal Friday. I would help plan birthday parties, help facilitate them, and do some light office work. And this was, for me, just a phenomenal job to have working and mirroring a woman entrepreneur. Incredibly fun hosting parties, mostly kids' parties, but some bigger events for corporations. And at the same token, I also started my first internship at 14 at Warner Custom Music, which was part of Time Warner, working in a brand development and strategy unit called Warner Custom Music with a woman named Gabrielle Glore, who has been my mentor for many decades. And I still have the honor of working alongside her in the efforts of Urbanworld, where I currently serve as Chief Innovation Officer. So that is 30 plus years of internship and working for really powerful women that I think has been really instructive throughout my life.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. We're going to get into this. So, how does one also score two awesome internships and jobs at age 14? Like, how did you swing this?
Well, it was a matter of economics for me. Having a job, excuse me, really meant a chance to have money, autonomy. I was always very entrepreneurial. I've always traveled and done amazing summer opportunities. So the job function was doing something I enjoyed, but having a good income for a 14-year-old, that is. And the internship was really sort of the point of passion in endeavoring into a field that I had complete, again, passion and focus around. But I didn't grow up in a family that was an entertainment industry family. My parents were really social service leaders, community leaders. My mom worked as a social worker and psychotherapist. My dad in the Department of Parole, and there was no entertainment in any of those areas for me to kind of hold on to. So it was just so important to have the internship in the role modeling of executive leaders, particularly a Black woman leader who I worked for, to sort of have a North Star and know that it was possible to kind of understand the dynamics of building a career really with an open path ahead. And so I would sort of work this job, hosting these high end parties and make, enough cash to have all the things I enjoyed as a teenager, But, and I really got to work as an intern. I started understanding how to build a career, particularly a creative career as an executive and as a leader, that was far beyond anything I was experiencing, on my trek from Brooklyn to the Upper East Side at that time.
Oh, awesome. So amazing. And like, it's so, I always love when folks give their younger jobs as their first job as the one that they mentioned, because it always informs so much of who they are right now. Because like those lessons
Absolutely.
you learn at that moment come in so handy. It's so incredible.
Well, humility is, I think, is where it comes down to. I mean, my first job post undergrad, I went to University of Pennsylvania, and I ended up getting a financial analyst role at Goldman Sachs. And this was turn of the century, so over 2 decades ago, the height of the bull market. And with all of the goodwill and merit that I invested in, as a young person, wanting to be a media mogul, essentially, really wanting to sort of emulate the great women leaders at that time who were really just leading the path for the intersection between entertainment, media, strategy. Folks like Gabrielle Glore, who I mentioned, Lisa Cortez, Sylvia Rohn, who still is top of her game in the music industry. It was really, as in my first job at Goldman Sachs, that I realized the power of finance and philanthropy in threading together all of those sectors. And in my role, it was a lot of training around client service, account management, specifically for hedge funds and other high net worth individuals. And the confidence that you gain from having a financial acumen really does transfer across sectors. And so those early years at Goldman for me were completely instructive around how I could use all of those amazing social skills and creative skills that I sort of innately harnessed as a very young person in New York. And again, it's not sort of typical to land at a Warner Music Group or Time Warner. I ended up interning at Atlantic Records and Elektra, and really running book on campus at Penn and producing lots of great concerts and events. But along the way, you realize the financial acumen is really quite essential for just
Right.
leading an enterprise and also expanding impact over time. So those fundamental years for me at Goldman Sachs were extraordinary, amazing to work with great colleagues, great clients, but really eye-opening for me. And what's sort of driven my career path was sort of the emphasis on impact and the impact of philanthropy and the power of not only sort of the utility of finance and funding, but the way that traditionally so many groups, particularly women of color, are excluded from opportunities because of the financial quotient. And so for most of my career, I've really endeavored to build this bridge between creators and artists and finance and investment. Often I say, the only gap between realizing your creative vision and goal is often finance. And for
Right.
so many amazing talents, it's definitely not a lack of talent or effort or even network. Sometimes it really does come down to financing. And so that adaptability, the ease, and really the confidence that the training of a Goldman Sachs gives, it really did help me to enter new realms throughout my career, which included intermediary funding, have been a leader and strategist for many arts nonprofits, particularly helping young and emerging and ascending artists to realize their goals as storytellers, filmmakers, and onwardly. And so my path to getting to Urban World and helping to lead this legacy film festival and innovation platform has really started and has its roots back, to those earliest opportunities that I held looking at both the interpersonal workings of creativity, but the impact that storytelling and art has on society and the ability to create change.
That's so awesome, and I love how you beat my question before I had a chance to answer that. I was like, "How did you get to be here?" And like you just told me.
Well,
So I love
it's
it.
yeah, no, it's definitely. I mean, there are definitely a lot of turns that are not in the bio or on the resume, but as I mentioned, just having a career that spans over 20 years. I think for me, I always think about the long arc of time and coming out of university during in the year 2000. I graduated Penn in the year 2000. This was the end of sort of the traditional music industry as we knew it. Napster was really shifting to the digital world that we all know and endure in consuming content these days. So it really
Mhm.
was the sort of technological breaking point that also saw, breakthrough IPOs with tech companies that we all
Yeah, that
fluently use
combo.
today. Yeah, so being in the mix of that level of creative expansion and also disruption was truly exciting for me, and a lot of where I devoted my efforts were really in the realm of, again, how do we disrupt or bridge systems like finance and philanthropy to support the arts, support social impact and change. And I think in the past 20 years, we've seen this major shift from just really looking at return on investment as the ultimate goal, towards what I've been, a term I've been socializing and really using for many years, which is return on impact. What impact does this effort or does this investment or does this innovation have over time on society, on communities, on individuals to really expand life possibility, and really more interconnected understanding amongst us all.
Oh, so amazing. I knew you were going to be wonderful. I don't know what to talk on. Uh, so, so it's really interesting because I think there really is something really unique about the art of storytelling, but also the ability to actually get those stories told. So it'd be really awesome for you to kind of talk about your two roles right now and how those sort of intersect.
Absolutely. So, I've been very lucky throughout my career to be supported and to be very involved with various foundations and leadership opportunities. In 2015, I was part of a first cohort of Just Film Fellows at the Ford Foundation, and really identifying social impact storytellers and leaders who are critical in the field. At the time, I was working at Tribeca Film Institute, which in a role where I oversaw their film residency and teaching program, Tribeca Teachers. So we would actually have filmmakers, many of them who sort of progressed through the festival experience and institute experience, placed in schools and in incarcerated spaces, sometimes hospitals, helping community members to tell stories and then produce these screenings and community activations throughout the city, throughout the festival, and sometimes right on Rikers Island. And so these the sort of social change sort of mission invested in community members through the act of storytelling was very visceral, was very clear, and really led to, I think, a shared appreciation and a mutual seeing of community members, some who didn't have sort of the civilian access as they were, part of incarcerated settings. And so that worked for me during my time at Tribeca, and really sort of sewing into my own passions and expertise and experiences throughout my career at that point really led me to create Overstand. And Overstand really functions as a capital introduction unit. And we have a film finance platform that launched the following year in 2016 at the Urban World Film Festival. So seeing the threading through of all of these organizations coming together, but had the chance to go back to my mentor and first boss ever, Gabrielle Glore, who was leading Urban World at the time, and pilot this experience, which connected filmmakers to investors directly. And at that time, one of the supporters was HBO in their 150 initiative, so that we were introducing artists who had tremendous careers, who putting forward ideas as a proof of concept and pitching, not in competition with one another, but rather pitching for the excellence and the support of the investor panel to move their projects further along. So within 5 years of presenting that film pitch panel, we've supported over 15 artists. They've had close to $100,000 in proof of concept support, acquisition through HBO Max, and really more importantly and intently, a community of filmmakers who are being supported not only financially, but creatively, and really working in a community of practice. And so myself and a lot of the amazing partners who come from every aspect of brand work, advertising, finance, of course, VCs, and studios and media companies have a chance to really take a stand for these artists in a real intangible way. And so Overstand, operates with the very clear thesis that if we do provide a pathway between artists and investors, great stories and storytellers will emerge. And so that was sort of a very exciting part of my career, where I was supported by a foundation, came up with an idea, and that idea was the seed of ultimately leading me to Urban World in my current role as Chief Innovation Officer. I joined in April 2022. I'd previously been running strategy and partnerships at a tremendous international film academy called Ghetto Film School, which is based in New York, LA, and London. And while I was there, it was clear to me that one of the opportunities that still was still full of runway was distribution. And so Urban World, as a film festival supporting diverse artists and content creators, hosting an innovation summit, really just felt like the right move. And being able to inherit that from one of my veteran mentors and dear friends, and work in the spirit of an independent lens where filmmakers are being supported inclusively by inclusive leadership, just felt like a tremendous gift to be able to expand on the work of Overstand, the work of my career, which is again really about closing that gap for artists and for partners and supporters, and to really also introduce new aspects of innovation. And so, we are connected, Laura, through Karen Kala, who's a tremendous light. We actually were able to partner this year and bring to Urban World the first ever fintech pitch competition, which Visa supported and powered. They were presenting partner of the festival. And we saw 5 amazing entrepreneurs, fintech entrepreneurs, pitch for funding support, which there was $50,000 in support that went to 3 different fintech founders, all of them men of color. And so it is tremendously rewarding for me to think about innovating through storytelling in a space that introduces new opportunities for filmmakers. Filmmakers and storytellers have as much to learn and access from the Visas of the world and the fintech founders of the world, um, as we all do, but specifically what we can support at Urban World and as leaders in storytelling is helping even those fintech entrepreneurs to tell a better story about their work and the application of it. So really was a tremendous effort. And in that partnership, in presenting the FinTech Pitch Competition, we worked with Visa to create a brand doc that looked at an amazing filmmaker named Kelly Kala. Kelly is a phenomenal USC graduate, outstanding director, and really give a vignette of her life on set and how she uses Visa and sort of digital payment systems to make films and, be a complete boss on set. So there's a way that storytelling can connect to all of these culturally relevant systems that on its face aren't traditionally for women or for people of color or for anyone in particular outside of the stories that we develop to make them relevant and make them vital and important.
You know, one, I love, love, love what you're doing, and it's so necessary and so important. And I absolutely love the fact that the blending of the two, like fintech and storytelling, just it's so necessary. But also helping folks figure out how to get through that block, which is oftentimes the funding to get those stories told. So I'm guessing that with with all the success you've had, you've probably had some probably pretty challenging situations along the way. So I'd love for you to kind of maybe pick one from your experience of a challenge where you're like, there's no way I'm going to be able to figure this all out. And then you did.
Wow. Well, so many challenges, but one that does sort of stand out to me um, is one that I think everyone in the world can connect to, which is more recently looking at this period that we've all come through as COVID set in, everyone being remote and truly leading a team and leading the advancement of creative process during a time where the world literally stops. And one specific example, and I'm thinking of it just as the Freeze Art Fair comes together, one of our partnerships while I was at the Ghetto Film School was a collaboration with Deutsche Bank and the Freeze Art Fair, a phenomenal world class art fair that takes place in New York, LA, and London. Same sort of geographies that Ghetto Film School operated in. And just so happens in the middle of, I think the second season of our film award, we are conducting a fellowship helping to get not only equipment but financing into filmmakers' hands to make short films that would compete for a grand prize. um, we are without the ability to be together. And so, I think the quick shift in transition to thinking not only about how we operate virtually, but how do we really commune and bring together artists in practice and celebration as well during times where we really need to be apart. And we would traditionally host a film screening as well as a sort of an award ceremony. And we decided, and this was against all odds, that we were going to do it in a COVID safe way. And we actually, because we're based in LA, decided to convene everyone at a Soho house. We'd have all the PPP, we'd be, masked and safe. We had jurists piping in on Zoom from Germany and from UK and even locally in LA. Really fabulous assortment of people gathered to not only celebrate but announce the film award winners. In that moment, here's the big challenge. Apparently, there was a fiber optic line that was cut. So imagine in our hybrid worlds,
Oh,
we have no
oh my God.
internet,
That's a
right?
nightmare.
So major challenge and also just an ongoing reality of the hybrid lives that we all live. So being a strategist and a producer, I had thought of plan A, B, C, and D, and
Right.
just working with the most phenomenal producers. We got very creative and crafty and literally linked together a production set with mobile technology and Wi-Fi. So everything that happened, remember when we all saw the Oscars and they were like hybrid and people are sort of in a studio, and we did our best version of that. Camera crews, Zoom, all powered and connected by mobile Wi-Fi. So a big shout out to Apple and to just literally, I think the power of mobile technology to allow us to still communicate. So a lot of iPhones, a lot of Wi-Fi hacking, but know
Been
that.
there, done that.
Yep, and I love this story because at the end of the day, what mattered most was that we had the artist at the center. The one sort of priority that we had. Yes, we could fly in jurists from all over the world. We wouldn't do that in the middle of a pandemic, but if we could safely gather artists at the center so that they could finally meet one another after zooming for months, making their films in isolation on COVID proof sets. At the very least, we could all safely gather and bring those artists together. And so I think, what I take away from that is mission first always, right? And the work of supporting artists means typically you do everything possible to get them the resources, the financing, the tools, the space they need, and then you get out of their way. And so
Exactly.
after we finally hacked this whole, hybrid award ceremony a la Oscars 2021, um, we did just that. Everyone was out on the terrace, and just the ability to see artists support one another, love on one another, regardless of who the winners were. It was just a major win to have artists at the center and in community and to be celebrated.
Oh, awesome. And I was having heart palpitations and all I know what the Wi-Fi situation is like. So
Yes, we all know.
I
Right?
have hacked together Wi-Fi in some of the most unusual locations in the world, and
Yes,
it is very much the MacGyvering of it all. So been there, done that. But the cool thing is, that, like whenever you do anything with events, you have one shot to make it right, and come hell or high water, you will make it right.
that is
Uh,
right.
and the folks will have no idea all the madness it took to get to this pretty stage where you're all having a good old time, and underneath it's being held together with duct tape and prayer.
Amen. Amen.
100% understand. So it's interesting. Looking back on what you've done, what do you think you'd probably tell like 18-year-old Sharese?
When I was 18, I definitely feel like I had a similar confidence that I have today, which is, always optimistic, forward always. And, my 18-year-old self was moving very quickly. I was always thinking globally, really deep into my career vision of myself. So I would tell my 18-year-old self to stop and smell the roses sometimes. I think often the pause that we create for ourselves in life can be the most beneficial time. And so, at 18, I was very much, again, out on that venture in that trajectory to be a media mogul, to always take on more, and really never stopped in my tracks to realize how much I had accomplished, even by the age of 18. So I would sort of give myself a gentle nudge of grace and say, definitely stop and smell the flowers, take a breath, and reflect, take a pause, and remember that those moments are sometimes the most valuable moments. It's not about having the most packed minute by minute schedule, um, and the value of those packed schedules only become more pronounced and more powerful when you do stop, pause, and reflect.
It's so important because it's like, yeah, look, it's part of the impetus of why I do the surveys every year. And I make it completely agnostic to what industry folks are in because it's like, take a second, look up and realize how fabulous you are. We are oftentimes so deeply in those trenches that we don't get a chance to look up and see around and be like, holy, this is amazing. I did all this. So it's so very, very true. And it's important to do that because also, like, there is something affirming about the fact that when you can look back and see like all the things that you've done and be like, oh, I can arch my shoulders back, I can put my head up high, and you know what? Yeah, I am good at this. I can't think on this next crazy challenge because look at all the other stuff I've done in the past.
Absolutely, absolutely, and one thing I have had a time, and I think we all have, sort of really reevaluating what's valuable, right? And time is so valuable. Time spent with oneself is always undervalued and underrated, right? And I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a board member, I'm on several boards. The board of ITVS, which is a tremendous partner to filmmakers across public media. I'm a trustee at the Frick Collection, which is a phenomenal old masters museum here in New York. I just joined as a leadership fellow at Lincoln Center and tremendously proud of that work that I do and put a lot of time into public life and public service, uh, particularly when it comes to the arts and culture. And what I found throughout my life enduringly is that it's most often beneficial to stop and take reflection time when you are in these amazing spaces and you do have those seats at the table or you're building your own table. It's really the ability to think, to reflect, to be grateful, and also to have a time to play and to imagine and to truly think and vision into the future. And sometimes we can get in our own way by going from task to task, goal to goal, meeting to meeting. A lot of great value and breakthrough comes through in the pause.
So very, very true. And speaking of the taking time to play, Cerise, what do you do for your self care?
Oh wow. Well, I love to meditate. Meditation is a big part of my self-care, taking time in the morning to do breath work, to practice just mindfulness and envisioning. And if I'm really on focus in the evening as well, and I find that that time is tremendously helpful in um, clearing clearing my thoughts, clearing my path, and also being open to a lot of opportunity to connect to larger vision and plans. I love to travel. Travel is a great form of self care for me, even if it's a local trip. Really being curious and visiting new places and new things. And that brings me great joy and is a form of self care to always see things anew. And, recently it's been, as a parent, more time of travel with my daughter and my family together. But when I can take a solo trip, that is to me a very great form of self care. To be in enjoyment with myself in a new place and new setting. And I also love to read and I love to write poetry. And those are ways that, if I am able to dedicate time to those practices, I feel very full and very nurtured.
I love that, and I mean, I think that's it's so important to do that. Those creative outlets mean so much, and we must do them.
Yes, especially working with creative people because it is a practice and it's an enduring practice to be able to connect to creative process through your own experience as well. Being in creative practice yourself helps you connect to other creative people and creative practices and processes. So it is a way that you in parallel are taking care of your own self and your own thoughts, but also a pathway for you to connect to how other artists and creators practice and progress in their gifts.
It's so true. It's funny because, like, similarly, I sit in the creative field every single day, and I find myself like, okay, what other kind of funky creative things should I be doing to, like, as another outlet for me? And I'm like, haven't figured that out yet, but I will, because I know it's so very important. Now, last question for you: do you have a give and or an ask of the audience?
Yes. Well, I would love to give to the audience a a quote, and this is a quote that I've come back to, and I hopefully won't completely undo it, but it is really in the vein of how we make people feel, and this is you're often people often forget what you've said. People often forget what you've done, but people always remember the way you made them feel. And so I believe that you know the gift of being present is one that we all can embrace. We all have the ability to give it, to gift it, and particularly in times as we are in now, um, to really be compassionate, be empathic, and to create space to be present with one another. That is something I like to give to whomever wants to receive it. And I would love for everyone in the audience to check out urbanworld.org. We have a tremendous festival ahead today. February 1st, submissions are open. It is a 27-year-old legacy festival and innovation experience that I'm proud to say I was at the very first version of this festival. It's how I learned to festival and look to creators as true healers and just gifts to our culture and ways that storytelling can truly shift the way we experience life. And so, my experience over the years and now at the helm of Urban World, I'd love to invite you all to check out our festival, tell filmmakers you know about it. Come visit us in New York City, November 1st through 5th. Save the date, mark your calendar. And if you are a creator or know a creator, encourage them to submit.
Awesome. Absolutely. We will put all the details in the show notes. It is such an incredible festival. You must come. And Sharese, it has been such a delight talking to you. Oh my gosh, you're such a wealth of
Oh my goodness.
goodness,
Thank you.
good information and just light and, like, it's such a uniquely beautiful perspective. And you're doing a damn thing. So I'm so honored that you were able to be part of 29 Days of Magic. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor and delight to be a part of this experience. And congratulations to you for creating this space and shining the light on so many amazing voices and efforts and merits in our community.
Oh, thank you so much. Um, so for more details, check our show notes about all the amazing things that Sharese is working on these days. And as I said, it's part of 29 Days of Magic. And that is our show.